My name is Mitch Benner, and we started this podcast to remove the stigma around sobriety from addiction.
My name is Aaron Nelson. Through our stories and the stories of our guests, we hope to help you find a new path.
All right, well, let's kick this off. So here we are with episode 11 of Shattered Darkness. And today we have the distinct pleasure of talking with Arnold Jakobsen. Arnold, you live here in Windsor, is that correct?
That's correct.
And Arnold started a company called Telos Creative. And let you tell a little bit about what you guys do.
Yeah, talk about myself right away.
Yeah, man, just jump right into it.
Yeah, I'm just jumping right into it. So Telos Creative is a marketing agency company that helps small business owners with their marketing. We focus primarily on websites and branding, logos, graphic design, and also do a lot of coaching as well, coaching small business, how to use Facebook or Instagram and incorporate that into their website.
Yeah.
So Telos, people often say, "What's that even mean?" It is the Greek word for purpose, and if Aaron can testify to this, if you hang out with me a lot, I'm all for purpose. Where are we going? Why are we doing this? And a lot of businesses struggles with that when it comes to marketing. They just do stuff because they think they should, because everyone else is doing it. So what I provide, I come in and I ask the right question, and I kind of take them by the hand and lead them. And hopefully one day that they can then take off. That's my passion. I love it.
That's awesome.
I feel privileged to get to do that.
How long have you guys? How long's Telos been around?
So Telos has been around only for 6 months.
Oh, wow.
But I have been, or 5 months, should I say? But I've been in the industry for a long, long time.
Yeah.
So I worked for another company prior to that. So they laid me off, unfortunately, and then that became actually a blessing to me because it forced me to start Telos Creative.
Yeah. Good for you, man.
So yeah, it was a big jump. Become my own boss, have my own business, but it was such a blessing, though.
Yeah, you know, it's funny. I was watching this clip by Elon Musk the other day, and somebody had asked him if he liked starting a business, and he's like, "No, like I hate it. It's the worst." You know, he's like, "I like it when we get there, but you know, as the creator and the owner, he's like, you are signing on to deal with the hardest problems all day long." You know, so it's like people think they're going to start this business and everything's going to be easy, but it's actually the exact opposite. So that's good, man. I'm happy for you. That's really cool.
And then also I just want to put a plug in there. I'm also working for the Windsor Area Chamber of Commerce. As a part-time, I'm director of business partnerships there. And those two go well together. I'm really passionate about seeing small business owner just grow and succeed. So those are the two things. I'm also an assistant to my elders at my church. So technically, those are the three things that I do.
Good for you,
And
man.
then I'm happily married to Courtney, my precious soul, precious gem. And then we have two lovely girls, Haley, just turned 17. And then we have a little cutie, Noelle, who's just turned 4.
Oh, nice.
So
man.
my life is pretty full.
Yeah, good for you, dude.
So,
you know, and I like the three things that you focus on, right, is your faith, your family, and your career.
Yeah.
You know, and those are your 3 pillars. That's really awesome. Good for you.
Yeah, dude, you got to know how good he is at his Telos Creative job, though. Like, he did my website, and some of the stuff that you've shown me, man, has been amazing.
Well, you might have to sit down with me and help me with some of the real estate stuff, because I'm literally telling my business partner this morning how bad I am at marketing. So
yeah, we'll get into the sober stuff, dude, but you need your time to talk about how awesome you are.
Well, and that's the thing too. We want you did us a solid by coming on here and sharing your story, being vulnerable. So we want to make sure that we help you out as much as we can as well. So that's awesome, man. So I am super excited to get into your story. I have heard a small piece of it here and there, but yeah, man, I'm just going to let you jump into it wherever you want to start.
Yeah, people, they ask me, it's really funny. When I talk, people, the first thing they notice about me is my accent.
Right.
So they, after talking to me with them for a while, they ask, "So where are you from?
Yeah.
Where are you from? Where are you from?" I get that question all the time. And then I have to just slowly go into my story and try to keep it short. But
That's probably
it's
pretty
like,
difficult.
how do I even start? But I was born in Colombia,
Okay.
right outside Bogota, which is the capital of Colombia. I was born in a poor district, so my parents, I never met my parents, never saw them, and I assume my mom got pregnant young, so they left me at an orphanage and they walked away, never to see me again.
Was that common?
That is really that is common in Colombia, in
Is
that
it?
poor district, because
You just can't take
that's
care
just
of
it's just so poor,
Yeah.
and they get pregnant really young
Can't do it
and
with
can't do it, and
Wow.
so that's how my story started. So I was raised in an orphanage in Colombia for roughly around 5 years, and then that I don't remember a lot of that story. It's many years ago, but then after 5 years, I got adopted all the way to the other side of the world, called the Faroe Islands, so which is located between Iceland and Norway. It's a small country, 53,000 people or 54,000 people. We have a funny saying back home: there's more sheep than people.
That's hilarious. But I gotta tell you, man, that little island is absolutely beautiful.
It is middle of nowhere. So I was adopted all the way from Colombia to that place. So
It's
it's
crazy.
the whole two different cultures.
Yeah.
I remember when I came to Faroe Islands, I never seen snow before. So it snowed, and I was running around catching snow, and I just was a little bit like, what's going on? Like, what is, and I just never have seen it before because it doesn't snow in Colombia.
Right.
So, oh my God, I bet that was one of the magical moments for your parents, dude. Like right when you get there, like, oh man, I can picture that. That's amazing.
That was that. I remember that.
Yeah.
I'll never forget that.
That's
that
really
moment.
cool.
So fortunately, I got another home there. Was raised there. I know it was a little bit rough to adjust to the climate and the changes with culture.
Right.
And it was Faroe Islands, as you said, is a small country. It was even smaller back then.
Yeah.
So we were probably around 45,000 people back then. So, and there were not a lot of colored people.
Yeah.
So
you kind of stuck out like a sore thumb.
Yes, I did. and that had its challenges, you know.
I bet,
and so and then of course the food was different. Just the climate, it was cold, it was dark. Like,
did you? Sorry, I want to bet.
Yeah.
Did you experience a lot of like racism and things like that?
A little bit here and there.
Really?
And when things got a little ugly, I played a lot of sport. Like I played soccer a lot, and sometimes I did when things got heated.
Yeah.
And of course, but sometimes that came up, which was really hard for me.
Yeah, I bet.
So, and also I struggle with that because you knew that you were different.
Right, and I was going to say that's going to play a part in your identity.
Yes, so you knew you were not like everyone else.
Right.
You knew the color skin, and it was a challenging time,
Sure.
definitely.
Yeah, I can imagine.
And over it was cold. It was, I don't know if you know, but Faroe Islands is north, so in the winter time like the sun comes up at 9 and goes down at 4. So
Wow.
it's not a lot of, so.
Do you guys have summer months up there? Is it all?
Oh, absolutely. We
Yeah.
have. It doesn't get too warm. It doesn't get too cold, but on the summertime it's awesome because it's the opposite.
Right.
So it can be midnight and it can be still not dark.
That's
because
crazy.
But then on the winter it's the opposite.
Right.
Yeah.
So and so that's how I raised. I went to school, tried to get involved in the culture. That took a long time. Had some health problems with food and all that stuff that you just have to get used to.
Yeah. So your folks, are they from the Faroe Islands, born and raised?
Yes, both of them were born and raised in the Faroe Islands.
Okay. So tell me a little bit about the adoption process and, kind of going through that, and tell me a little bit about your parents.
Yeah, I think I was so young. So as I look back now, it's
kind of hard to remember.
It's hard to remember, but still, it was. I remember they coming to Colombia to get me, and I did also have they also adopted another. They adopted my brother, too, but he was from the Faroe Islands, and he was 10 years older than me.
This is not your biological brother.
No, but he was adopted brother.
Gotcha.
So they adopted him and me. So he he was 10 years older than me.
Gotcha.
So that kind of was a kind of hard thing because he moved, like we lived probably 2 years in the same house, and he was not home a lot
Yeah.
because he worked and did his stuff. So, and then he moved out. So I became kind of the lone child, so to speak, and that was hard.
Yeah.
You still stay in touch with him?
Yeah, not as much as I should, but
Yeah.
every now and then, yeah.
What about your parents? What were your parents like?
Oh, my parents were? They were kind. They were more quieter thing. My dad was a carpenter, so he worked all these
Okay.
years. He loved building. He had a gift in building stuff. The house we lived in. He built it by himself, kind of
Wow, that's really
with help
cool.
of other. But he built it, and he had a gift in that. He was a handyman.
Yeah.
Knew how to fix stuff. Knew how to build. Had a passion. And I think one of the things I really appreciate my dad is that he was really faithful in what he did.
Yeah.
Like there was, for example, there were times when he was like he went to work sick, and his boss had to tell him to go home
Yeah.
because he was not feeling well. So that my dad was just part of that generation that just did not like, oh, I'm not feeling well, so I'm just going to stay home.
Right.
Do whatever I can
Right.
to stay home.
Mm-hmm.
He was just not that guy. He was the opposite. He was like, no,
You do everything you can.
yeah,
to
you
get to
do.
work.
Yes,
Yeah.
you do everything you can do to go to work,
Right.
and he was really faithful in that and provided and just a hard worker. Did never complain about not feeling or remember when it was cold. Like sometimes you get the weather there is brutal. Like it's snowy, it's windy, it's hard. And they have to be out there building stuff.
You have to be tough to live there
Yeah, I was
anyway.
going to say the
You know,
climate,
like,
for sure.
I don't know.
So
It's
it-
different
yeah,
thing, different
it's-
people.
Yeah, it doesn't get too cold, but still it's windy, it's snowy, and it's a different kind of world. But
Yeah.
he never complained.
Do you think he enjoyed it?
Oh, he loved it. He did it all his life.
Yeah,
So he had a gift in that.
that's cool. That's
My
really cool.
my mom was a homemaker. She was of course taking care of the home,
Yeah,
feeding us. Had some different things. Went to some school to try to do some other jobs that didn't work out. So that was kind of. But she was just more the nurturer of the
Gotcha.
home.
I was just going to ask you a question. I totally forgot.
I remember one thing my mom did was we had when I was younger, we had some good conversation about just being adopted.
Yeah,
And
actually, that's a good point.
and just I remember I sat on her lap and she was just talking about different things and I shared. So that was really some of the fun memories of my mom.
So you knew. I mean, obviously you knew because of the color of your skin,
Yes.
but they didn't like skirt around that at all.
No, they did not.
That's
they
cool.
they were really upfront by it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's good. What about faith? Was your family faithful people or?
Yeah, they definitely introduced me to my faith. We were what we called Baptists, and mix. We were Baptists, but we also mixed with a little bit of charismatics.
Okay.
And they definitely start young. I went to the meetings with them, and they start talking about God, and so yeah, definitely they introduced me to the faith.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Okay, real quick, I gotta know what is it. I'm just on this spiritual journey I'm on.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Okay, what in the heck is the difference between like Baptist or like I understand Catholic pretty well because that's like
Mhm.
I think their own thing, but so like I think I'm non-denominational.
Yes.
We just go whatever, but yeah, explain that to me.
So yeah, it all goes back to the catechism and the confessions and what they truly believe in. Like the basic difference is that a lot of Baptists they don't believe, or some of them they don't believe in that the spiritual gifts they do not exist anymore. They have ceased. Well, the charismatic they believe that they still are present. The spiritual gifts is speaking in tongues, prophesy, healing, and all that. So that's kind of the major difference. And where baptism are really, I would say they're really hard, like not hard but they're really strong on the doctrine.
That's what I was going to say.
Are they
It's-
Bible thumpers? Like, I don't know. I just see like an old Baptist Southern woman, like,
No,
beating her kid with a Bible or something.
No, they're I let me just clarify something. I have met people from both end of the spectrum, and let me tell you that the Baptists are people that love the Lord.
Yeah.
They're hospitable, and and the same with charismatic. I've met charismatic; they're really hospitable, and it's I'm really just against. I don't like division. There's a lot of division today, and of course you divide on stuff. You have to divide. If you come to me and tell me, "Hey, Arnold, Jesus is not Lord or Jesus is not God," then yeah, we will divide on that. That's a foundational principle. So I would say we divide on things that if it's wrong, totally wrong, then yeah, we divide on that. But things that I think that are I don't think we need to divide on. That's why I feel a little bit saddened that we divide on things that I don't think we need to divide on.
I totally understand what you mean, and I agree, because and I would say that would be the best way I would describe it. Is it's a doctrinal difference in the belief system. So and I don't know how far you like praying in tongues and things like that is a very spiritual, it's like almost like I lay my hands on you and heal you. It's this prayer language that you get from God, and it's used to kind of communicate in the spiritual realm, and just kind of like really go into this intercessory prayer. And so I actually grew up with that kind of stuff in a non-denominational church. So if I'm on my side of the world, I'm probably more Baptist, to where a lot of that stuff, dude, felt very cultish to me, like it was a little strange. So, but I like what you say. Like, you know what, dude, I really think we're all going to die and find out that we're all serving the same God.
Yeah. And that,
I think it's going to be like in South Park when they're sitting there like, all right, and the correct religion was Mormons.
Yeah. No, I think what the most important thing is to follow the two commandments that the Lord gave, is to love one another, and to love God,
Right?
Yeah,
and then love one
people.
another. That's and that oftentimes, I think we miss that.
Yeah.
We miss that. I miss that at times. You can ask my wife about that, and I just so genuinely believe that if we get that right, and here's the deal first. It says love God, and then love people. Yep. And not love people and then love God. See, so because
and you can't do it that way.
Yes, exactly. And that's exactly right. And that's oftentimes people say, "Well, I'm loving God. I'm doing all these things that I think it's loving people," and yet you do that in expense, and you believe, "Oh, I'm now serving God." No, that's not the way. The correct order. The order is that you love God first, and then He gives you the ability to love people as you ought to. So but I think back to you, I think that's the doctrine, and I think the question is first, Aaron, is do we have a clear understanding of the Bible? Because we need to have a foundation. What is our foundation? So if you say, well, I'm just going to believe in whatever I believe in, and I'm like, well, now there's two different foundations. So I believe that the Bible is the Word of God and is 100% true without fault. And if you don't believe that, now there's two different foundations.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Does that make sense? So we have to establish.
Yeah, you're boiling all the way back to your belief system.
Yes, exactly. So that's what it comes back to with the Baptist and charismatic, and but the real thing here is that God has called you to love Him with all your heart, strength, and mind, and then also love people. That's the key.
Yeah. And the thing about spirituality too is and Christianity is Jesus is real, man. Like that stuff is real, and it's like, I think that's probably the biggest challenge that people have in Christianity is that it requires something of you. It requires you to go out and to sacrifice yourself, to lay yourself down, to have that relationship with God, and then to go do it with people. Exactly. And life is just full of dichotomies, full of them. It's like the world is telling me to do this in this situation, but God is telling me to do the exact opposite. And it's almost like that turn the cheek and let them smack your other cheek, or how many times do you apologize? 70 times 7, it's infinite.
But that's the key, because when someone hates you and wants the worst thing to happen to you, can you really in your own strength
Right. Pray for
love
them.
them
Right.
and pray for them and bless them?
Yeah.
Because that's what God commands of his people. It says, bless those who curse you.
Right.
Like, that is a strong command. And are you gonna you know how hard that is?
Yeah.
Like, someone speaks ill of you and trash your name and reputation, you might even lose your job. And God says here, Arnold, bless them. Do not curse. So how do you do that in your own strength?
Right.
I think that's
impossible.
It's impossible.
Yeah.
And therefore, that's where faith comes in. And that's why I love this topic about you have to be born again.
Yeah.
There has to be something. God has to rebirth you again.
We should definitely switch to your parents, but at the same time, though, I think that's why I can see, after based off that conversation, why sobriety and spirituality just goes so hand in hand.
Well, and that's what I was
'Cause
going to tie it to, sobriety. Yeah.
Because I bailed. Like, once I walked into AA, they were like, you need to give yourself up to God. At that time, I was in a different spot. And I'm like, whoa, I can do this myself.
Right.
Somehow I made it, but it probably would have been easier had I embraced it or had this.
Well, and
going into
the
it.
thing is, dude, is or maybe you would have found a purpose in it. You know what I mean? Maybe if you would have laid yourself down a little bit, like a purpose, God could have laid out a purpose for your life earlier. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's the point. So I remember this when you and I were talking, and you're like, dude, I just, I'm struggling with this. And it's like, I think I asked you, I'm like, okay, so you know exactly what you are capable of from now until the day that you die. And I feel like when you lay yourself down and you say yes to God, he takes you into places that you never even knew were possible.
Right.
And that's the thing. It's like, I have no idea where this podcast is going, but God is in the middle of it, and I feel like this was me listening to that voice in my heart and you listening to that voice in your heart, and so it's like, I think tying that to sobriety, dude, getting sober and ditching alcohol is one of the hardest things that we've ever done, if not the hardest, so it's like, I think that faith and spirituality is a requirement, because as a human being, that's why I say, dude, you're an outlier, but you had something that motivated you, right? It was your wife.
Yeah.
And
well, she was going to take Connor away. I'm
right. And your
wife.
family,
I'm
but
kidding.
that's a very spiritual thing. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so it's faith, faith, family, and whatever, that's how it goes for me.
Faith, family, football.
I don't know about that. But that's so, but yeah, I agree. Like, to be born again, and it's so hard to describe that, and to put that into words.
I think it is. Here's what I believe, and I think also here's what the scripture teaches us. I think when we lay ourselves flat, we turn from our ways and we embrace God. And for a man that or a lady, that's hard. That's saying that, hey, I'm wrong.
Right. Exactly.
You're right.
Exactly.
And how many people do they like to be told that they're wrong? Like,
Right.
They don't. But that's where God comes in, and he says, Arnold, you're wrong.
Yeah.
And you have been wrong since birth.
Right.
And I'm like,
And
then I have a choice there. I have a choice to continue my own way.
Yep.
Or I can lay myself down, confess that I'm indeed wrong and he is indeed right. That's where it all starts.
Right.
It all starts with humility.
Yep.
It says that dear God resists the proud, but he gives grace to the humble. And that's what happens when you turn and you confess, and you literally confess to say, Lord, I confess that I'm a sinner. I confess that I have done wrong. And I repent. I turn from my ways to receive you.
Dude,
and in that moment, there is, I guarantee you, in that moment, God is faithful.
Yeah.
God is faithful to come in. And I later I can share a little bit about that on my own personal life. After,
it's so true, man.
Yeah.
And that's like tying that back to sobriety. It's the same thing. It's just like, you have to go in, sit down, and admit all of this stuff and be like, look, I did this, and then focus on it, break yourself down, take the pieces you like and leave the ones you don't.
Exactly.
So no, that's cool, man. Well, let's kind of shift gears back into your parents. So, we brought Arnold on our podcast because you grew up, your parents struggled with alcohol.
Yes. and I think if we go into my teenage years, I think I was a little bit of a wild child. Like
A bit of a rebel.
yeah, yes. I had my own. I did stuff that I'm definitely not proud of.
Sure.
And even to this day, I look back at the times saying, man, I hurt a lot of people. Man, did I do stupid stuff, and I realized that I was broken myself. I was hurt myself, and when I became a teenager, I started to see some pattern in my parents. I start seeing them struggle. And as a teenager, that was like, what do you do?
Yeah.
I just didn't have any, like, I didn't know where to go. I just didn't know.
What was your mindset, like your kind of viewpoint of your parents at that age? Like, you start to see the facade crack.
Mm-hmm.
Before that though, what was your perspective of them?
They of course they were loving and caring, and yet when I start seeing this, I just knew that something was off.
Yeah.
I just did not know how to deal with it, and it was hard dealing with my own emotions.
Sure.
I was bottled up, and I also, a lot of the time, I just filled myself with other stuff, such as, like, I played a lot of soccer, went to school, and then many hours of soccer, and became really good at that. But it was, it's hard when it's your parents.
Yeah.
It's because on one hand you love them and you respect them, and then on the other hand you know that something does not add up here. So you can imagine a person adopted, still trying to find a foothold in his culture and his life, and now this. So that was it was something that really, I would say, it really did something to me.
Yeah.
I think the hardest part was that I did not know what to do with that.
So when they were they kind of dealing with their problems and negative emotions by drinking?
Yes, I think like we all are, like, they were broken as well,
right.
and
just didn't have the tools they needed.
Exactly. They didn't have the tools that they needed, and then they needed some outlet to deal with this, and I think that's why I think they turned to that.
Yeah. So did they start to, like, was this a thing that they did most of your life, or?
No, I think it started, I think, in my teenage years, and then I, thankfully enough, before, like, I mean, they did it for a extended period of time, but they didn't end, like, there before they passed away. Both of my parents passed away. They didn't end their life like that. So there was a clear period when they did that,
and then were able to recover
yes,
from it.
Yes.
So let's talk about this. So what kind of impact does that have on you at 14, 15, 16 years old? Did you feel like they were there for you? Did you know what I mean?
Yeah, I think that was one huge thing, that I didn't feel like my parents were there.
Didn't feel like you could rely on them?
No, unfortunately not.
Yeah.
And love my parents to death. But that was one thing that really, really hurt me.
What do you think they were running from?
I think they were running from their own hurt and their own brokenness, and they did not know how to deal with that. And I now, being older, having kids of my own, and I understand that better.
Yeah. And
I walked through some really hard stuff myself, as losing both of my parents at a really young age. I understand them better now.
Yeah.
Than I ever did.
Were they just not able to have children of their own?
Yes, I think that was why they adopted both me and my older brother.
Do you think that that's where a lot of their pain came from?
I don't know. That it might be, but I actually don't know. I'm still to this day. I think they had some hurt, and they just did not know how to deal with it. And then were they the
kind of folks that just kind of stuffed it down, and it wasn't something that you bring up and talk about?
It was. I think that was one of the things, I think, and I think it's way better now.
Yeah.
But back in the day, where I live in the Faroe Islands is kind of a tight knit culture,
Yeah, I bet.
and there's just it's hard to talk about stuff that is not
Well,
normal
and
to talk
everybody
about.
knows it. I mean, if there's only at that time you said about 40,
48,
50,000.
yeah, 48,000 people probably.
I mean, that's bigger than the town that we live in. I mean, that's
Exactly.
smaller than the town that we live in, you know?
Exactly.
So, yeah, everybody knows everybody. And I could totally see that. And that's also the environment too, right? Like that's how our folks were raised. And, you know, that I've said it multiple times, but I think our generation is going to be known for mental health, you know, and progressing mental health to a good place.
Oh, absolutely, and I see it. I see it today, still today, and I think this nothing has changed because people are still broken, and people are still longing for connection.
Yeah.
The key here is to reach out and actually ask for help,
Right.
and raise your hands and say, you know what, I do need help.
Right. And it's okay. And I think that requires the ultimate amount of strength, man. And that's, I don't know.
Because your baggage is not going to be aired out to everybody. No one has to know.
And you know what? Who fucking cares? Why? Who cares if it is anyways? You know, and that's the point of the, like, it's healing, right? If you want anything, and I truly believe this, if you really want what you want out of this life, you have to put your belief system on the front line.
I think I do see where you're coming from, but I think a lot of people deal with shame and guilt.
Yeah, of course.
And I think
absolutely.
also that was what that's why I give tremendous grace to my parents now, becoming older, that they felt probably a lot of shame and guilt.
Yeah.
And they just did not know how to deal with that.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's unfortunate.
So that's probably why people are not. I think we'll back to what Aaron's saying, that maybe not everyone needs to know, but if you can get like a small group of people,
I agree
that can actually
totally.
be life transforming for you, and you can still work on your shame and guilt as you heal.
Yeah.
You know, so I do understand what Aaron is saying there.
And think about it though, man, you're on this isolated island.
Mm-hmm.
Totally.
Small amount of people. And if you have something, you know, maybe something happened that maybe you don't know about, and it's hard to talk about because it's going to spread like wildfire. And then all of a sudden they're that family with those adopted kids with that
now you
problem.
all these social stigmas around
you know, and I'm not saying anything bad about you, but I mean, who knows, man? And then you just turn to the bottle because you don't know what else to turn to.
But to say that I agree, but I think I am really proud of. I've seen a lot of changes back home in that there was a lot of abuse happening back in the day, and I love that there's more and more people rising up now and talking about those things, talking about a lot of different things that we didn't even talk about when I was young.
Right.
And now you have people, you have even nonprofits now starting more and more to help to talk about these things and focus on these things, which I think is really healthy, and it's something I'm really excited to see happening in my own country.
Yeah. Oh, that's awesome.
Is there a pretty big drinking culture out there?
I don't know if it's a drinking culture. I think I wouldn't say. Of course, I don't live there anymore, but I don't. And here's the issue. The issue is that some people you don't know. They drink behind closed doors, so you actually don't know what actually was happening. They don't go to a bar and drink. Like, of course, some people do, but I think the hardest part with is people that actually are hiding in their own homes, drinking, and then no one knows about it because you want to keep it.
Well, that's where it starts to just really go downhill. You know, and because there's no checks and balances anymore.
No, and I think it's like, but like I was like, Faroe Islands is a lovely country, but like United States, like every other country, we do have our own issues, and I don't think particularly that there's. I think it's just what is everywhere is everywhere. Now you have drinking problems in America, you have drinking problems in the Faroe Islands, you have. Because you're still you have drugs in America, you have drugs in the Faroe Islands.
Right.
So there's just this things that people deal with because we're humans.
Right. So let me ask you this. After you found out about that, did that do anything for you with alcohol? Did that kind of give you a mindset of like, hey, they're doing this, so it's acceptable? Did you ever struggle with it?
Personally, I tried it, but I tried it and then I tried it for a season and then I was done. And I just like, I'm never doing this again. And I think the more I saw my parents struggle with this, the more I was just I don't want anything to do with it. And to this day, when I go to a lot of different things, networking events or parties, I usually like 99% time I stay away from that.
Yeah.
I just don't like, even when I go to a networking event that offers beer and alcohol. And nothing against people. I'm not saying that it's wrong to take I'm just staying away from those things because I saw what it did, what damage it has done.
Yeah.
And it's doing this. So I just keep a distance.
Yeah.
And I technically don't. I don't fancy it. I don't like it.
I like the way it makes you feel.
No, it's just, and I don't like the taste of it, like beer. It's just I'm kind of maybe a little weird guy.
Yeah. No,
I don't drink beer. I don't drink coffee.
Yeah.
I just never jumped on that train. You
just have this natural like energy inside of you, man.
I do drink other stuff, so that's not true. But
no, and that's cool, man. I just was curious because I feel like in our experience it goes one of two ways. When the parents are drinking, it's either what you chose to do, which is never have it, or it goes the other way.
Yep.
Where the kid gets involved in it or whatever. So I was just curious if that had an impact on you. So,
so was it like now? I mean, okay, so you said that let's just finish your story with your parents. So you're in high school now.
Yeah. So I think a really important thing happened then is that as I was still dealing with this stuff, I truly made the faith my own.
Yeah.
And I know I've heard a lot about this Christianity, and I remember this. I'll never forget it. I went into my room, bending my knees, and I told God, if you're real, here I am. Like I don't know. If you're real, I like something, simply just surrendering myself. And I kid you not, I'm just telling. I'm not making this up. Literally, I felt like a new person.
Yeah.
Like literally stuff that I knew I was doing wrong. Like I know I had downloaded things on like movies I shouldn't, it was wrong. It was stealing music and all that stuff. And I just deleted the whole thing. And no one told me to do that.
Yeah.
No one.
What led you to that decision?
No, it was just a conviction.
Yeah.
I think the Spirit convicted me on several things. And I just started from that day to live a completely different life. And that's what I believe that was the moment when the Lord saved me.
Yeah.
And, and it was my own choice. It was not forced upon me. It was not, hey, you have to follow this step. It was just, I just simply went into my room and I just said, the Lord, here I am. And he did answer. And he did things like, those things. There wasn't people oh, you're religious. No one asked me. There was no pastor or teacher that told me, hey, Arnold, you need to delete this move, or you need to no. It was nothing like that.
Yeah,
it was just the conviction of, Arnold, you're doing wrong things, and hey, you need to repent. So I did.
Dude, that's awesome, and I use that word a lot. How would you define repent?
Oh, it's a good word. I would define repentance on going in the opposite direction.
Yeah.
So what I mean by that is, if I was going this way, and I repent, now technically I'm going this way.
Right.
Totally a different way. And
right.
that's I think I think when I'm reminded of repentance, I used to walk this way.
Right.
And now I'm walking the other way because the Lord changed my life and asked me now to repent and walk, to follow him.
And it's funny too, because I want to add a little something to that, because that you nailed it, right? It's a complete 180 from what you're doing. And I feel like when you're walking this direction, away from the Lord or by yourself or whatever, you have this backpack on, man, that's just heavy, and then when you repent, you lay that down with all of your issues. And that moment of laying those things down and really feeling that release, I think that for me was the moment that my heart was raptured again, and it was just gosh, what am I doing? And it's that pure moment of just surrender of like, okay, I have no control over what's going on here.
Exactly. And then of course, as my story continues, I continue. I had still a rough relationship with my parents, but I think all that turned. I completed high school, started working, and I think a couple of years later, my mom was diagnosed with sickness. We think it's cancer, and she was really sick.
Yeah.
And I think that really helped to restore me and my mom's relationship. And we had talk. I told her I forgave her for everything, and just to set me free from everything, and that I think that was crucial for me.
Yeah.
Because I didn't know that a few months later my mom would be gone.
Yeah.
And I think that started, I would say, the period from Arnold. What Arnold is like, I call it the dark night of the soul, which is just a hard season.
Yeah.
Like first losing my mom, and then 2 years and 4 months later, my dad passed away.
Man.
So I lost a lot. And it's almost like that pain again to being orphaned for the second time.
Yeah, geez.
Of course.
Wow. And that was just like, I cannot explain. Just being really honest, I can't explain the pain that I felt.
Yeah.
That was one of the hardest seasons of my life. And yet, if I did not have the Lord on my side, I don't know what would happen to Arnold during that season. Like, I'm absolutely certain that there was moments when I just wept and just cried out to him because it was just so painful.
Yeah.
And I remember that prior to that, I did come to Windsor to attend a Bible college, and that's why it's part of my story. And then it was really interesting because when my dad passed away, I was supposed to be volunteering or be part of the school, but just before the semester starts, I have this really, like, this in my, it's just almost like a conviction that I have to go home. Like, Arnold, you need to go home, and it would not go away. It's like, man, I think I need to go home. So I talked to leadership and said, you know what? I know I was signed to be here to help you guys for another year, but guys, I need to go home. I don't know what it is. I need to go home to my dad. I did not know that he was sick. So I went home, back home, and then I think a week or two later, 3 weeks later, he was diagnosed with cancer.
Jeez, man.
And so I walked with him 3 months of his last time on earth, and then he passed away. And again, just
Shattered,
yeah. Painful. But yet, I remember this really vividly. When I was in my apartment, I got a package from people in the United States, and it was really fascinating that the church here, which I was a part of, they sent me a ton of letters as they knew that I lost both of my parents, or lost my dad, and that was just almost like the Lord reminding me that, Arnold, you're not alone.
Yeah, totally.
And it was that moment. It was just right at that moment when I needed all these letters from my church in Windsor. And it was just such a test, like, okay, the Lord used other people to remind me that, hey, Arnold, you're not alone. Yeah. You're not. And I had no idea that it was 9 months later. 9 months later, I would be on the plane again to this Bible college school because they invited me over, and here I am. But it was.
How long ago did your dad pass away?
My dad passed away in 2015.
15, okay, so 9 years.
Yes, my mom died in September in 12. Wow. So that was it was, and here's what you guys have struggled with. You guys say, I understand. I can see why people, when they're hurting and their pain is so deep, that why they would drink themselves to death. Or I'm not saying that I feel that it's right or that they should do it or I encourage. No, but I understand it. I understand it because of the pain.
Yeah, and it's easy, dude. Like, it's hard to feel your emotions.
Yes.
You know, it's hard to do that, and that's something that I've struggled with all my life. You know, as I'm a very highly emotional person, and I love it and I hate it. You know, but yeah, so it's tough. It's
Yeah.
really tough, you know, and I know that kind of pain too. I've felt that kind of pain, and it's, I don't know. I disassociate myself from it. I can somehow look at it from a bird's eye view, but it manifests itself in my life later in negative ways if I don't deal with it. So, um,
Yeah, and I think also just that you have to deal with it,
yeah,
and I dealt with it with the Lord.
yeah,
So that is what kept me, like, I'm absolutely 100% give all credit to the Lord that he carried me through that season.
you know, and I want to highlight something too, because pain is the greatest teacher, you know, and failure is the greatest teacher. And I think our culture, our society is starting to move away from that, you know, and it's just like, I'm trying to teach my kids this right now. I got a 6-year-old and 4-year-old, you know, and it's like, hey, like our family motto is we can do hard things. You know, I just don't want them to grow up thinking that if something's hard, that they should run away from it.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like we have that mentality in our society right now, you know?
Exactly. And here's what I tell people: it's not that people say, well, if I accept Christianity or accept the Lord, will things be easy? I'm like, no. If I told you that things would be easy because you became a Christian or accept the Lord, I would be lying to your face.
Yeah.
And I'm not going to do it. And I'm just not.
Well, and it's a shift of your perspective, man. Like, bad things happen to everybody, right? We have two options. Life is not that complicated. We have two choices when shit gets bad. We either let it destroy us or we let it turn us and we learn from it. You know, and that is your choice. And that's the thing. It's just we are flooded with, oh, this will make you feel good. This will make you feel good. This is going to make you look pretty. This is going to make you do that. Compare yourself to this person. Look at that. Look at these people are at Disney World. They're doing this. I'm seeing it in my 6-year-old child. You know, and it's my daughter came to me the other day and she's like, why does so-and-so get to go do all these trips and we don't? And I'm like, dude, even if we had the money to do that, I wouldn't do it. You know, because that's just not healthy. You know, trips and vacations and things like that are supposed to be special. And if we do it 4 or 5 times a year, it's not special anymore. You know, and so it's just that, like, I don't know. It drives me nuts sometimes.
Yeah. And back to the.
And let me just say this too. I by far do not do it right. You know, I mean, I am the worst when it comes to that stuff.
Yeah, and I think pain and the failure. I think now having my own kids, I think I understand my parents better.
Totally,
and,
man.
And if
Totally.
I look back, I had to have to take ownership that I was not the best child,
right.
And I had my issue, and it has been freeing for me too to see, like, Arnold, like, it's like you said, you what do you do with that? You know, what do you do when you look back on your life and you see, man, I wish that things were different.
Yeah,
I wish that things were different. You know, I wish that my parents didn't do whatever it is, but ultimately, it is you have to take ownership,
right?
And it's up to you. It's like you can take that and actually build on it,
right?
You know, is it going to be easy? No. And but one thing I do is, like, man, I do understand my parents, even if it did hurt me a lot, and it really, like, it was hard. Now they're not here anymore, and I look back and I understand them, and here's the deal, like, without them, I would not be sitting here.
Right.
So so when I'm talking, sharing about there, so it's not to, it's just a part of my story, right. But I honor them, and God used them to bring me to this chair today.
Yeah.
You know what's crazy about you and this whole story that I'm hearing, man? I'm just compiling all this stuff. Is it's so uplifting and so encouraging that because it doesn't matter if you're drinking or not, you went through some shit.
Yeah.
And right now, I mean, you seem pretty calm today, you know, and you are the most happy. You laugh. You're the biggest cheerleader. Like you are the ray of light and happiness that's, you know, in team right now, or anybody in your life. And it's just crazy when I'm like hearing all this stuff, dude. I'm like, man, this guy, you're truly special, dude. And it's really cool and encouraging to see that you made it all the way through this on your own.
No. So let me.
Well, okay, with God.
Not on. Let me stress that. That's why I was gonna just. I tell this all the time to people. If you take God away from Arnold, you don't have Arnold. You don't have Arnold. I am dead serious when I don't care if people are like, oh, you can no. If you take God away from Arnold, what God has done in my life, you don't have Arnold. You don't have that all that stuff. It's because it's because of him. It's because of him and what he has done and what he's continued doing in me. But hey, do I have my own struggles? Well, absolutely. You can talk to my wife about those things. Like, yes, I do have struggles, and yes, I'm still growing into being a father and being a better husband. But I tell people all the time, I have to remind myself, this is God's doing. And I cannot take credit for something that's not mine to take. The only thing that I did, and of course it was to be faithful and trusting and believing and taking the decisions and made a decision that I made. And here's also the decision that I have to make. I had to go back to a lot of people. I have to for example, I stole money, so I had to pay the money back because the Lord, they didn't even know that I was, but I had to do because the Lord was pressing on my heart, or people that I have hurt back home. I had to reach out to them and apologize for each one of them, because when those are the things that sets me, it just sets me free.
But you're doing your part, though.
Dude, you know,
you're not just sitting back and letting it happen.
No.
Like,
you know,
I'm trying to give you credit, man. Take it. Oh.
You know what's funny about what you said, though, is I know you're not talking about alcoholism right now, but dude, that is the exact process in sobriety, is making amends. It's one of the steps in sobriety, you know? And so it's going back, it's visiting those things and saying, look, I harmed you and I'm sorry for that. And is there any way that I can make it right? You know, and then you release your soul of that weight and you move on.
Exactly. And I think that was the best, like, to end my story with my parents, that there was a clean slate.
Yeah.
You know, when my dad passed, he was ready to go because he knew that he was going to go because he was sick, because he had cancer. And was it hard? Oh, it was so painful to lose him, but we were on good terms.
Dude, and that's awesome, man. I mean, that's all you can ask for.
I know. And were we able to talk through all the stuff that's happened? No, we did not get to that, you know?
Yeah.
But, and did I wish that my parents could meet my daughters? Oh, absolutely.
Oh my God, dude, I can't imagine.
Absolutely. But it's again, my choice is I can either be bitter at that, or I can be thankful and grateful for the opportunity that God has given me,
right?
You know, and
you're talking about those two choices at the end of the road when shit's hard and you crawl into that fork in the road. That's what you're talking about, dude. And it's the same thing when you're getting sober. Any kind of change that you truly want to make in your life.
And here's what I also want to tie in is that if you feel like as a parent that you are, oh yeah, I'm just gonna drink in my own home, just gonna do this beyond, like, they are watching.
Oh yeah.
And they know. They do know. You can do whatever you want. You can spray, and so you don't. They know when you're drinking or not.
Yeah.
They know. That's the first thing. But and the second thing is that there's absolutely nothing wrong of raising your hand and asking for help. That's and the third one is that if you think that your decision when you're doing this as a parent, it's just affecting you, you're lying to yourself.
Yeah.
You are truly lying to yourself.
Dude, one of my favorite lines from a movie is from Interstellar. And he said, when you have kids, you become a ghost to your kid's future. You know, and I just love that because it's true. It's not about you anymore. You know, it's about leading by example, you know, and all of those things and setting the tone.
And that's what I really want to highlight here. If you are like having these issues and you have kids, like, please, I walked through that as a child myself.
Yeah.
And I beg you, like, raise your hands and ask for help. And do not think that this just impacts you. It impacts your kids and their future as well. It has such, and I tell people all the time, do you know that one decision can absolutely transform your life? It can change the trajectory for you, your family.
Let me ask you this. You probably, do you get a lot of people that come to you at rock bottom? Is that, and I guess rock bottom is hard to define, right? But because I look at my story, dude, I grew up in church, you know, I grew up in that stuff and I purposely walked away from it. But it wasn't until I hit rock bottom, you know, and I was just, my rock bottom was a handle and a gun, you know.
Mm-hmm.
It wasn't until I hit that point that I experienced that freedom, you know, until I really knew what surrender looked like, you know, and it was just like, oh my gosh, like I am in control of absolutely nothing. So my question is, because I don't want you to have to hit rock bottom to make that choice. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
Exactly. And I think my wife and my elders, some of my elders have talked about this about me, is that and back to what Aaron's saying, that I come across really happy, really energized, and I don't, which is also hard to come to a person like, well, Arnold has everything together. Arnold is perfect. Like, well, Arnold is just, it's like, no,
he's just happy.
No, yeah, he's just happy. And I'm like, no, Arnold, you have to start being honest to people and say, you know what? No, I'm struggling.
Sure.
You know, I'm struggling with ABZ, or I'm doing that, whatever. It's almost like, let people also in and just, and it's interesting enough that I have, like, with several business owners that have gone through really hard times, that I have had the opportunity to talk just as men, and that's been one of the blessings. Just talk up to us men, and just that. Like,
open
man,
your heart.
you open your heart, and then they share, they're just pouring out their heart. And I was like, man, that is hard. That's hard stuff.
Yeah, and that's where the magic happens, dude.
You know, and then you bond, become, and you realize, like, we there's so many people that are having to fight hard battles.
Yeah.
They are, like, and I think as a believer, we are to help one another. We are to encourage one another. We are to serve one another. You know, and it's not about you. Like, here's what I feel like. I think you mentioned it too. People are looking for real,
authentic.
That's what people are.
Truth.
That's what they're looking for. They're not. They're. And I think it's because of the social media. Because of
totally, man.
It's because it is tiring. I'm talking from my own personal experience, to keep a facade. It is. I don't know. It is so tiring.
Yeah. Well, and it's almost like you have to put on like, dude, I went to a class. I'm not going to drop this dude's name because he's pretty famous, but his whole shtick was like having a persona.
Yeah.
You know, and being like, he's like, I am not this person behind closed doors. I don't want to be that, dude. Like, I really don't. Like, that to me is stressful. It's like you're living this lie all the time, you know, and it's like, really, why don't you just find something that's in line with your passion, you know, or live for something that's greater than yourself? And it's this dude is very famous for the, and it's, you know, I mean, that's crazy to me.
And it goes back to what you said, that living behind closed doors, I think I will say, is in family homes, it's hard.
Well, dude, it's where Satan lives.
No, but it's hard. It is really hard. I can testify to that myself, that I had struggles, and bless my wife, like, like, she is just, like, she's solid. She's more wiser than me. She's like, and then I come home and it's almost like, wait a minute, like, why am I not being the same person when I'm out there doing my home?
Yeah.
Like, what is that?
Yeah.
Is it because is it, it's just essence question here, is it because we take things for granted? Is it because it's hard because you're not getting anything from them? There's nothing they can give you. I don't know, but I think that's one of the greatest gift I believe you can give your wife and your family and your kids is being real.
Yeah.
That Arnold, when he's out there, he's the same person as home.
Yeah.
That's what I feel. I understand with that guy, and I'm just done with that because I want to be the same guy.
Well, and
dude,
I have nephews and they're in their teens right now, and dude, that generation is just looking for the truth. I see a revival going on in that generation because they're just so confused about what's actually real and authentic. And so it's I get the sense of like I've got to be I've got to be this person in this meeting.
Mm-hmm.
Like I'm a real estate agent over here, but I also run a podcast over here, right? Those are two very different things. And at times I find myself not being my true authentic self in real estate, trying to maybe more chameleon myself into that situation. Which I get that, certain situations call for that.
Just to an extent. That's
all.
Exactly.
But at the end of the day, I feel like I'm still sober Mitch who loves tattoos and, hard rock music and all of that kind of stuff, but I don't live so much. And I think for so long I did live as that person. And then I'd come home and not really know who I was, and plus I'm drinking and mixing all that in there too. And so I think the biggest word, man, is authenticity. Like, and I think that the only way to really experience that is to tell the truth.
I completely agree with you. And I think there's nothing more freeing than just being honest.
Totally.
And I think that's one thing my wife is trying to teach me. Is almost like, Arnold, it's okay. Like, own your feelings. Yeah. Like, it's okay that you have these needs. And she's really good at that. And I don't know what it is with man. It's like,
well, it's our natural inclination.
Yes,
man.
Because it comes across that being weak.
Yeah.
And yet, again, coming back to Christianity, is that the Lord resists the proud, but He gives grace to the humble.
Right.
And both you and Aaron, like, I ask this or tell this to a lot of people, or say this to a lot of people. If you go even in the business world or whatever world you're in, have you ever heard someone say, "Man, I wish Aaron was more like well, how to say this? I wish that he was less humble. Like, I wish he was less.
I wish he was a little more arrogant.
Yeah, yes, yeah. Like, or you know what? You're being too humble.
Yeah,
you're being too humble, Aaron. Or Mitch, you're being too humble.
Dude,
like you never hear that.
Yeah,
I have never heard that. I don't know if you guys have ever heard that. You don't. And oftentimes we esteem like it, when people are humble and they're real and honest. I don't know about you guys, but there's some respect that comes there.
Well, it gives you a little warm fuzzy, man.
Yeah, it does.
And it automatically connects you to somebody.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Here's a guy that is not trying to be. He's just being himself.
He's just being himself. And dude, and the thing is we all have those little, well, probably not little, but we all have those perceptions of ourselves, right? Like, we are our biggest critic.
Exactly.
And so in your mind, you're like, oh my God, if anybody finds out about that, but really in reality, it's like, oh, whatever, I did this 10 times worse, or whatever. And it's just like automatic, like those are my best friends right now, are those people that just fully open up.
Exactly. And here's the deal. Like, do you know that when you do that if you struggle with drinking, is that's one of the greatest gifts you can give your kids and your wife, is to raise your hands and saying, you know what, kids, I messed up, or I've done this and I'm going to get help.
Dude, they're going to learn from that so much more. You
were talking about letting your kids watch you fail and then picking yourself up. That was one of the things that I did with my daughter with sobriety, was take her through that with me. You know, like she knew that all that happened. You know, she knew I was going to the hospital to get help and detox and all that kind of stuff. So, you know, I let her see all of that. And it was hard at first because I wasn't sure that was the right thing to do. But at the end of the day, man, I think it made our relationship a lot better.
We talk about it a lot with Connor and I also.
Yeah.
You know, like it just kind of comes up, you know.
Yeah.
I think it's just wise to do so.
Yeah.
What you're doing.
Yeah, exactly. Well, it's, dude, they're people, right? Like, just because they're kids doesn't mean you can't treat them like an adult. You know, and my wife's always giving me crap about that. You know, like, you really think they understand that? And I'm like, I'd probably not. But at the same time, like, who knows? You know, who knows what's gonna grab on.
Well, dude, they're like, what's 40 times more likely to have an alcohol problem if it's in your family.
Yeah.
Like, we need to get ahead of this shit.
Well, that's what I'm saying. Like, I think my kids are genetically predisposed to it. You know, because
absolutely.
Mean, so
do you see things in them like Connor, for example, video games, bro? He'll get so sucked in, and then even when it's time to be done, it's like I just see that pulling away.
I see it in my
addictive behavior.
I see it in my daughter. She's a perfectionist. She struggles. She's going to struggle with depression. So with issues of herself,
like beating herself up, it's not good enough. Yeah,
I'm already seeing it, dude. Like, she's 6 years old and she puts makeup on. She's like, "Look, Dad, I'm pretty." I'm like, "No, you were pretty before." You know, like, but I think that's a little girl thing. So she's just so much like me, man. Like,
does it scare the shit out of you?
No, because I feel prepared. You know, I feel more prepared than my folks were. Because now, again, I'm going to be blindsided by something at some point because, you know, that's life and God. And there's something there that I'm not seeing that I'll learn at some point. But no, I'm not. I was for a long time, I think, until I started to go down this road.
Dude, it's crazy. Like, I see this with Connor, and it's like my dad's brother passed away. Just, man, you should have seen his apartment when we cleaned it up, you know? And then me and now Connor, like, I'm just absolutely terrified of him even picking up a beer. I know he's going to have to go through his things. He'll figure it out himself, and he will, but it's like...
That's the thing, man. You have to let go. Like, as a parent, and not now, obviously, but we're going to have to let go at some point. You're probably there with your 17-year-old.
Yep.
You know, I mean, you have to let them live their life, make their own mistakes.
Well, I know I'm not going to like bubble him, but you know what I mean? I
get it. But you know what? That's what makes you a good dad, is that you care, you know, and that you have those emotions there. Like, it's a checks and balances system, right? Like, we're doing this podcast, man. Like, my kids can get on and listen to this at any point in time.
Yeah, that's what's cool about this. Everything's eternal now.
Yeah. You know, it's like when they turn 15, 16, 17, like, if they come to me, and this is 10 years down the road, but if they come to me and they're like, "Hey, I want to go to a party," I'm not going to say no. What I'm going to do is to be like, "Okay, we're going to go through all of the things that could happen. These are all of the dangers that you need to be aware of. My job as your father is not to tell you what to do, is to prepare you for the world." You know, and so am I scared? I'm always scared. I'm always scared that something will happen to them, but I can't control that, you know, so there's no point in living there.
Yeah.
At least not in the negative side of it. You know, it's for me, it's like, let's do everything we can to equip ourselves with the tools that we need to be the best parents that we can. Are we going to fail? 100%.
Mm-hmm.
Are we going to own the failure? Absolutely. You know, we're going to fuck our kids up somehow, you know, but one thing I won't fail at is showing up.
Right.
And I think that that's the number one thing that we can give our kids.
So to kind of start tying that bow on this episode, man. So what's your perspective of the child that was, you know, had it pretty rough because of this? What can you tell parents right now that are listening of that hasn't already been said about the effect of all this?
Yeah,
or kids that are trying to deal with it.
I think it sounds basic, but it's hard. It regardless of if you're in that position, you are in for a hard decision. Yeah. If you're gonna continue on, it's gonna be hard because probably already now it is hard. And if you're gonna stop, if you're gonna raise your hands and ask for help, it's gonna be hard. But that's not my focus. My focus is behind that door is things that you barely can imagine. Like to be free, to be like and of course I've dealt with other stuff that I've been bound by, but to be free is nothing compares to that. To be free from, and that's what I want to tell. I don't want you to focusing on man, but what if? No. You can still one decision can absolutely transform your life. This might be that decision that they get their parents back. You can say, well, I lost 10 years of them. Yeah, well, you might have another 10 when they're still in your home, or 8 or whatever. And they can still have 8 amazing years. And that's the focus I want to leave you with, is that you are still able to make that choice today and change.
Totally, man.
And then I would say that don't do this on your own. I guarantee you're not gonna make it on your own. And you need help. You need other people to walk aside you, along you, and there's nothing wrong with that. Like there's absolutely nothing wrong with that. And I would say that I would then leave it that if you have kids, they know. It doesn't matter how well you hide it, they know. And if you are not making this decision today, like it's not gonna get any better. It's not gonna get any easier. It's not gonna get. It's only a downward spot. There's no ups.
Yeah.
And if you wanna, I'm not trying to be. I'm just trying to be really real. There's no. And as a kid, like as I spoke earlier, like there were 2 different parents, and after both of them after my mom technically got sick, like it was my dad changed, and my mom changed as well. So both of my parents changed, and they were totally 2 different. Like it was amazing to see. And it was amazing to see how they actually also fell afresh in love with one another.
Yeah, came back to each other.
Yeah, fell in love freshly with one another, and all these things. And I'm like, that's what can happen when you make that choice, that transform. So that's why I tell people, reach out today. Don't wait. Say, oh, I'm going to do it tomorrow. No, you do it today, and you make a decision. Let me end with this, like, make a decision. If you want to continue drinking, okay, then you made that decision. But don't like, yeah, but no, there is no but here. Make a decision. And I'm not saying I'm going to sit here and say it's going to be easy. I will be lying to you. But is it going to be worth it? Oh, absolutely. Or are you going to have joyous moments that you never thought you could have behind those doors? Absolutely, you will. And that's your motivation. Yeah. That's your motivation.
You know, and the thing too, you said this earlier, and I want to add this, but it doesn't make your life any easier. It just makes it more manageable.
And I think also more purposeful.
Exactly. Thank you. Yes.
More purposeful.
And that's really a big underlying foundational thing here in this podcast is service, you know, and helping out the next person and sharing your experiences. And, you know, because there are tons of people out there that have gone through this, done it successfully. And yeah, I totally agree, man. I think that's really great advice.
You have to choose your hard. It's going to be hard no matter what. I just thought of this analogy. I don't know if this is good or not, but I think as we're drinking, we're pushing this boulder uphill. Yeah. It's so hard to get up that hill. Okay. And then sobriety, all of a sudden you reach this little flat plateau and you got to push that rock downhill. It's going to be hard in the beginning, but it gets so much easier.
And I would say even go as far as it's a snowball you're pushing uphill, because the farther up that hill you get, the fucking heavier that son of a bitch gets.
Well, same thing on the way down, dude. I mean, this is like sober's not like now I'm 8 years. Like I don't even think about alcohol. Like we had a whole weekend based around alcohol just now, and it's just no big deal.
Yeah. I mean, and that's good. I definitely still have my moments, you know, the holidays were tough, but my family knows and they support it. And I also wanted to say too, like, on this, we want to get questions from people. So one, I want to say thank you to Arnold. Arnold, your story is absolutely unbelievable,
Amazing.
man. Like, and your perspective on life and the world and Christianity and faith and God, dude, it's amazing. You really are a light. And I just want to thank you for your time.
Hey, thank you guys, and I wish you blessings upon this show, and I hope that I and many other people can inspire hope.
Yeah.
And that's one of my deepest passions is to inspire hope, and to talk to people and encourage people. Because I know what that means. I know what that means to get that encouragement and get that hope and have people around me. I cannot stress that enough.
It oozes out of you, man.
And then if that's why I'm so sorry. That's why I'm so big on community and so big on. I usually tell people I'm a team player because I know as a team you can go so much farther in life, in business, and personal, whatever it is. And that's why I tell people all the time: don't do this alone.
Like, you know what? That's read a quote by Simon Sinek. I think I sent it to you, and it was magic happens when the guy with the dreams meets the guy that knows how to get things done.
Yes, but that's so true. Two players, like one has the vision, one gets the stuff done, but you need both.
Yeah,
because the person just gets stuff done. He's like, well, what's the next thing that needs to be done? All this, okay, I'm gonna do this or this, whatever it is.
Yeah.
But man, it's. But let me stress out again what I said. I chose that way. That way I call it the way to the cross. That where I saw my Lord be sacrificed for me. When I saw my Lord Jesus be sacrificed for me, and I received that, and therefore I was able, based on His promises and His life in me, I was able to do it. It was not. Oh, Arnold, but no, I've tried that and it's not working. I did not work.
That's one of my favorite things about Christianity is when Christ is talking to his disciples about, now it's your turn to go out into the world and to share this God, and you will have the ability to do the things that I've done, and it's like God gives us that. All we have to do is tap into it. And I love that you highlight the fact of how hard it is to make those decisions, because it is hard. And that's why I think so many people struggle with it. And the journey doesn't end at salvation. It starts. It starts at salvation, and I told my wife this too. Like, I'm a huge proponent of spiritual warfare, and I told her, I was like, we start this podcast. I'm like, dude, my life we're going to fall apart. We are going to start getting darts thrown at us left and right. And it happened, man. Like, to the nth degree.
But that is the part of life. I think Aaron said this is like, choose your heart.
Yeah.
I tell people all the time, is it easy to is it hard to be single? Yes. Is it hard to be married? Yes. Is it hard to have no kids? Yes. Is it hard to have kids? Yes. It just, you have to choose your heart, and you have to put that in your head. And I'm like, I think my wife is way better than me than this, but I'm continually realizing this, that life, even when I read scripture, life was never meant to be easy.
No.
And to end this, when we look to the people that we look up to, that we inspire, they all have one in common. They all did hard things. Think about it. Really think through that. Like, when we World War history, whatever, you hear about this epic story, but it was hard. It was gruesome. It was like what these people had to endure, and like flying over and over again in the air, knowing like, man, I might be shut down any minute now. And you land and you go up again, knowing, man, I might be shut down. Like, it is those stories that are inspiring to us, because here were men and women that were daring to do hard things. Yeah. Think about it.
And the thing is the hard today versus the hard yesterday is different. Yeah. You got to plug into the world today, find your purpose, and, like you said, man, go do hard stuff.
And Aaron and Mitch, you're like, yes, if you're receiving hard stuff by starting something, well, you might be in the right place.
That's exactly right, man. If you're outside your comfort zone, you're in the right place. Well, earlier I was saying too, we want to get some questions from the listeners as well. So if you guys have questions, email them to us at shattereddarkness5@gmail.com.
Or comment on any of these.
Yeah, or write a question and a comment, like, subscribe. But yeah, we'd love to get your guys' questions and interaction. That would, and we'll answer those on air as we go. And if you want to remain anonymous, that's up to you. If you want us to use your name, we're down to do that as well. So, Arnold, thank you so much for your time, my friend.
Thanks, brother.
Yeah, we appreciate it. We'll see you guys next time.